Welcome into Weekly Champions here on Wrestling Spotlight TV, brought to you coast to coast on TCL Plus, True TV Plus, Sports.tv, and Watchy, even on cable systems in Maryland, thanks to Watchy. You're tuning in, and it's your home of 24/7 professional wrestling, talk shows, interviews, and great matches. We're joined by one of the, in the spirit of the old Vince Russo era WCW, one of the top men of Fountain City Pro Wrestling, Chase. You've seen him also on the I-70 hot tag. And Sonny, the man Eagle Cain, still roaming the rings, getting back into fighting shape. He's ready to go now, almost down to the junior heavyweight class in the old WCW and the old NWA. So we're ready to go here. And guys, it's regular season in professional wrestling. Chase, we just kicked off the season of Fountain City Pro. I was there, and we gave away a Wrestling Spotlight belt. I think it was a really entertaining show and had a great crowd. Sold out the Ball Event Center. How did it go for you guys looking at it after the fact?
It was great. As far as like feedback from the fans, which is what matters the most, right? Mm-hmm. It was, according to the fans, it was the best show that we put on. It was one of the best shows that they had seen in a very long time. And I was very, very happy with it. Going back and looking, I felt like the card was very well put together. It was positioned really well. I have nothing but great things to say about that. So I'm very, very proud of the show that we put
on. Great match when you get a chance to watch the card. The match between Luke Langley and you've seen him on AEW and Ring of Honor, Fuego del Sol, tremendous match. Something that would fit in perfectly on a Ring of Honor card, would fit in perfectly on a TNA wrestling card. I mean, that's the level of competition you're getting. Luke Langley is
a real deal.
Killing machine. He is good.
The real deal.
Put together. He went at it move for move with Fuego, going at it with one of the top cruiserweights from GCW and Ring of Honor. And yeah, it's just super impressive. And Sonny, that's the mark of a true high-level pro wrestler, isn't it? That they can beat you doing your style, or they can beat you doing their style.
Yes, sir.
You gotta
the more you interact and work with the same person each time.
Yeah.
So that it builds and you get familiar with that person, and it just makes for the better matches, I think.
Well, let me ask you this. How hard is it to have a 5-star match with somebody you've never wrestled against?
Very hard. That requires a lot of listening, a lot of getting to know the person as much as you can through videotape and fight film and stuff like that. At least that's the way I did it back in my day. I would literally call the promoter up and say, have you got any film on this person so I can get a feel for what the person is capable of? And then you get there and you just wing it. Now, some of the guys actually had a ring at their locations or their houses, and then you can go and had to get to know the person some that way too. And people say, well, that's a fix. No, it's not, because in the real event of the show, anything goes. And that goes without saying. That's pulling the veil back a little bit, but that's the way the business runs. And in the show, it's all about, or it's supposed to be about making each other look good. And sometimes it doesn't go that way. It's not going that way a little bit in WWE lately. And as a former wrestler, I can look and tell when things don't go according to the way they're supposed to here, there, and yonder. I'm sure you can too, after being around the business so many years. So.
And Chase, I believe that was the first time they ever matched up, wasn't it?
The first time in 5 years. Luke told me the last time he wrestled Fuego was in 2020, and it was during the pandemic. And, super cool situation. I mean, Luke obviously not being from Oklahoma, but Luke is very familiar with the Oklahoma scene. And we had two guys, not to veer too much off the subject here, Gerald, but we had two guys from the Oklahoma area who are both super hot right now as far as like, what we consider hot. And if you're on GCW all the time, which GCW is probably one of the top independent promotions right now, if not the top.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You got Fuego and Sam Stackhouse both going on GCW right now. It's a great time for, independent wrestling companies, like Fountain City, to get those guys on the show, because a lot of people are watching Fuego and Sam Stackhouse right now. Luke mentioned the last time him and Fuego fought was 2020, and he couldn't wait to do it again. And, to Sonny's point, and, your question too, Sonny, I'm a firm believer you could put Luke Langley in the ring with anybody, no matter the style and no matter the notice. I mean, I could tell Luke the day he shows up to the show, like, hey, you're taking on so-and-so tonight. And Luke's going to give you arguably the best match on the card. Hands down, bar none.
And then your champion, Camaro Jackson, the Grand Regent, he went up against the other GCW regular, Sam Stackhouse, and we saw Camaro win the match with a turnbuckle-assisted powerbomb on a 450-pound true heavyweight, not a junior heavyweight.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. When I envisioned, putting that match out there for people, I wanted that match to be, exactly what it was. Very entertaining. In the words of Jim Ross, a slobber knocker. I wanted two big guys just, beating the crap out of each other. And that's how I wanted to end the night. And again, from the feedback that we heard from the people in attendance and everybody else, it was exactly what we wanted to do. And they did a great job. They told a great story.
Yeah. And Camaro obviously had to work a little bit different pace than he normally would work. I think Camaro's probably pretty similar I think he's right around 240-ish, maybe a little bit heavier, maybe 250. So at a incredible weight disadvantage, but when you see the match, he was able to get him up off the turnbuckles and go a couple steps, which is pretty darn impressive. And when you throw the guy that big down, he's probably not getting back up. And then he ended it with a lariat just to make sure he got down for the 1, 2, 3. So Camaro Jackson, your reigning, defending, undisputed Fountain City Pro Heavyweight Champion, going into the next card coming up in May. So honor the Grand Regent. We're not saying acknowledge him, but honor him. Who do you think Camaro is going to be going up against coming up in May when Fountain City returns to the Ball Event Center?
There's a lot of people he could go up against. People that you see regularly at Fountain City Pro. Like we mentioned, the goddamn killing machine, Luke Langley, Jay Fowler. I'm sure at some point would love to have another shot, another opportunity at the Fountain City Pro Championship. Anakin Murphy's been on kind of a roll. I know he just lost to Jake Parnell, who's another person. Sure. Just gave us all a really good laugh on April Fool's. Everybody thought he was bringing back the ruler of ass, the head banging, metal clanging Warhorse, and April Fool's. He had a lot of fun with that. He's got to be in those talks. Also, arguably one of the greatest. Got to be careful how I say this, but one of the greatest people to, grace the Kansas City area, to come out of the Kansas City area, the Monarch, Jeremy Wyatt in Fountain City Pro. Anytime you're talking about championships in Kansas City, you got to talk about Jeremy Wyatt, right?
Sure.
There's a lot of people.
He just went.
And then there's people, out there that, I saw a podcast that Camaro Jackson was on where he said he really, really wants to face Dijak. That would be really cool to pull Dijak into Fountain City Pro and let Camaro have that match. And so there's a lot of different options, and we're going to explore all of them, not just for May, but for August and October and any shows in between.
Yeah, lots of events going on, and independent wrestling is hot. Just to put a stamp on that, coming up for WrestleMania, I'll be leaving, be there for the whole week. There's something like 25 independent wrestling shows going around WrestleMania, running from Wednesday through Monday. And a lot of wrestlers that you're familiar with from watching this channel are going to be out there. Fountain City Pro, Glory Pro wrestlers. We're efforting to coordinate timelines. There's been epic thunderstorms throughout the Midwest, and that threw off the travel plans for Sonny's friend, the Versace of Violence, Nixie XS. She's not able to join us tonight, but we're trying to get her set up. She's scheduled to be wrestling in Las Vegas, going up against the Heartbreak Core herself, Shazza McKenzie. So a lot of people that you see on our channel, they're going out to WrestleMania, which I think is interesting because it really has become the kickoff for the year, for the regular season of pro wrestling. Not just WWE, but I mean, everybody. TNA is doing an event there on the 17th at the Cox Pavilion. That's UNLV's arena, which is just off the strip. And then AEW is even going to have a presence there. Willow Nightingale, who's in the picture behind me after that cheap shot from Jon Moxley last night, she's going to be there. The Hurt Business, the Hurt Syndicate, Shelton Benjamin, the Gold Standard, Bobby Lashley, and MVP are going to be there. So it really has become just the destination for pro wrestling in general. It's really amazing how it's grown. More economic impact from WrestleMania than from the Super Bowl, which is unbelievable, but it's true.
You look at that from our level, Gerald, like at the independent level, like how awesome is that? I think at some point, AEW plans to do something similar to like a WrestleMania weekend, and that's great. But right now, what WrestleMania is, the entire week from, the entire week prior to WrestleMania, even a couple of days after WrestleMania, what it does for the independent wrestling business in that area, all the independent companies that are traveling to Vegas, or I went to Los Angeles, and I think you and I have talked about this a few times on the show, Gerald. Yeah. When I was in LA for Mania 39, there was shows going on every single day, multiple, not just the weekend of Mania. I got there Tuesday that week. I went to a show that night, and I went to a show every single night I was there. And like I said, it's independent companies that are not just in LA. There were independent companies that had traveled to LA, talent travels. It's a huge, huge boost for this business. And it affects everybody from the top at WWE to NXT that weekend to TNA, and then all the way down to the independent promotions. I mean, it's huge. So to watch AEW try and possibly, replicate that, and then to possibly look at what SummerSlam could be with a 2-day weekend, you've got 3 huge events all year that wrestling companies can go and benefit from that. That's awesome.
And Sonny, for anyone who's looking at going to WrestleMania still, some good news, because there's been some economic news that's kind of put things in a little bit of an upheaval. No tariffs added to professional wrestling. So Zack Sabre Jr. coming from the UK to compete in GCW's Bloodsport on the 17th, they're not having to pay a tariff to get Zack Sabre Jr. there. So that's good, right? No tariff. But
tariff.
yeah.
Especially they just
tariff free.
Yeah, the Supreme Court just knocked down the Canadian tariffs, so we're all good to bring Canadian talent down here as well. So
there's a lot of professional wrestlers from Canada. Well, hey,
Absolutely.
let's get into the pay-per-view that's happening before WrestleMania. It's AEW presents Dynasty. I was at it last year. That's where Swerve beat Samoa Joe to become the AEW Heavyweight Champion. Basically, a year to the day that we're talking. I think it was April 12th last year, but close. It was the week after Mania. This year, happening a couple weeks before. It's April 6th, coming to you from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So in Philadelphia, the same day as WrestleMania was last year. Going to be at Temple's Arena, and they got a big show. The main event is going to feature Swerve trying to get everybody in Philadelphia to be saying, whose house? Swerve's house. He's going for that AEW championship. We'll get into that, but the first matchup is an opening round in the women's Owen Hart Cup tournament. Mercedes Moné, the CEO, going up against Julia Hart. Should be a good match, and I think something that's been a consistent thread in AEW since about a year and a half ago, really since about Dynasty of last year, which coincidentally is when Mercedes made her debut. The women's division has really been on a significant, just consistent upswing. And this is a match that shows it. I mean, they do have a lot of talent. They have enough talent now. They could do an all-women's pay-per-view. What do you guys think about this one? Does Julia Hart get a win against the CEO, or does Mercedes continue her unbeaten streak, even though this isn't for the TBS title? What do you think, Chase?
Yeah, I mean, I love it for Julia. I think Julia's, character progression has been great. The way she's leaned into the character that she did with the House of Black and still continuing it to some extent is just awesome. I think it's great. But it's Mercedes Moné. I think looking at this Owen Hart Cup tournament, I think you could probably guess where they're going with this tournament, especially how it's been on AEW TV. So I don't see how Mercedes Moné doesn't win this.
No, because she's steamrolling towards a matchup with the fallen angel herself, the fallen goddess, Athena, your ROH champion. I think that's coming right around the corner. And if you haven't had a chance to watch Ring of Honor over the last year or so, Athena has been doing just great work as really the face of that promotion. Sonny, what do you think? Mercedes Moné and Julia Hart.
I like Julia Hart. I think she's going to give a good bout, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to be Mercedes Moné. So
yeah, money changes everything. Mercedes Moné is going to win this one because she's going to have that match against Athena, the fallen goddess, and I think Athena wins because it's a non-title match. The men's Owen Hart Cup. This is going to be a great matchup. New addition to AEW. The pipeline from New Japan Wrestling almost uninterrupted. Julia is the only one who hasn't come to AEW. Kevin Knight, true high-flying grappler. He's going up against Will Ospreay. This will be a Dave Meltzer-approved 5-star match. I think it's going to be Ospreay because you still got that Ospreay against Kyle Fletcher story going, and I think they can keep going back to that, but should be an amazing match. Kevin Knight's really impressive. If you hadn't seen his debut matchup against Jay White, that actually led to Jay White getting put on the shelf with an injury. Definitely go watch it. It was very impressive. Chase, Kevin Knight or Will Ospreay?
Again, Will Ospreay taking an opportunity to help elevate other talent. But at the end, I think it's Will Ospreay.
Sonny, what do you think?
I think this will be Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay's on the roll week to week. He just seems to get better and better. He's wrestled like some of the other guys in the business, injured and whatnot. He just keeps coming, and I don't see him losing here.
No, I think it's time for Will Ospreay to have a title of some sort, and maybe he wins the Owen Hart Cup, and that gets him a championship, tournament championship at least. The Ring of Honor World Championship on the card. It's the mask of Bandito on the line against the Nueve, Chris Jericho. This one, I think it's Bandito's turn because Jericho got him pretty upset, ripping the mask off of his younger brother, Gravity. Bandito got the mask back, and he is another impressive competitor, extraordinarily powerful for his size. Sonny, what do you think of Bandito? He's a little bit different version of a luchador. He's more ground-based than all the high-flying luchadors, but a very impressive fighter.
I think Bandito.
Have you had enough of Chris Jericho? Is it time for Chris Jericho to hang him up?
I don't think so. They catch a second wind every now and again when they go through a rough patch, and I think this may just be a rough patch for Chris Jericho. I've watched him a long time, and though I haven't met him as of yet, I have great respect for him for the fact that he came up from WCW and he's still going. So I think he's just in kind of a lull right now.
Well, and Chase, if you've been watching, he has kind of been transitioning the learning tree character a little bit. And we were talking about anniversaries. This is the anniversary of the Man of 1,004 Holds promo in WCW back when he was feuding against Dean Malenko. I think Jericho counted side headlock like 4 times, but he got to 1,004 holds. Is this the end of the Nueve and we see another version of Chris Jericho?
It's got to be, right? I mean, Bandito just got there. They're not going to make him lose his mask already, are they?
I wouldn't think so. No.
I think that I think this is Bandito's time, and yeah, I mean, there's a lot of negative stuff about Chris Jericho, you could say, but one thing is about Chris Jericho in the wrestling business is he's going to find a way to reinvent himself. If you can give him flowers on one thing, that's going to be it. You're going to say, hey, because we thought he was done with Y2J, and then he reinvents himself in WWE, and then leaves, and then comes back and reinvents himself again. Is kind of like the showman, Chris Jericho, and then the list, and then the Painmaker. Just all the different iterations of Chris Jericho that we've seen just in the past 15 years, not counting, the 15, 20 years prior to that in his career, just in the past 15 years. It's been amazing to watch. I think after he loses this ROH championship, I think it will be time for him to do it again. And I have all the confidence in the world that he will. He'll find some way to entertain everybody and make up a new persona of himself.
Well, and Chase, as the promoter that you are, Jericho is doing the one thing that's most important in sports. You can hate the person or you can love them. It's when you don't care that you're losing.
That's correct.
So the fact that he was able to come on and go, "Hi guys," and get people against him and booing him. That is correct. He's doing his job.
Yep.
Right.
If they're quiet, you suck. That's how I've always. I don't care. The wrestling fan in me, I'll critique that myself on my own time. But as far as being a promoter goes, listen, man, if they're not quiet, you're going to get paid.
Right.
If they're making noise, we're making money, guys. That's how it goes. And again, to your to what you just said, Gerald, that's exactly why Jericho is who he is in this business, because no matter what happens, no matter if the people are cheering for him or booing him, they are making noise of some kind to let him know that they agree or disagree with his different personas and iterations.
And if you listen to Talk is Jericho, listen to some of the interviews he does with different wrestlers, if you think the guy isn't an insightful driving force of pro wrestling, you're wrong. You got to listen to some of it. He has a great interview he did with Will Ospreay about how he was telling Will to kind of back off on it a bit because he was going to get hurt. And if you just do a few of these moves a match, then they're more special. 100% true.
Absolutely.
He has
absolutely.
Had a great interview with Brian Keith. There's tons of stuff if you go back and listen to Talking Jericho.
Yeah, it's something that's why it is different to be on the indies. It is different to be in Japan. It is different to be in the UK. And then it's completely different to be on WWE, on TV all the time. If you're on TV all the time, man, you can't give them everything. Otherwise, they're going to get bored and they're going to want to see something else. You gotta make them come back for more. It's different on our level. You know, I'm running 4 shows a year. So let's send the people home happy no matter what. If we were running 4 shows a week, it's a completely different monster. It's not even the same, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Well, speaking of, if the crowd is quiet, you're losing. That brings us to the TNT Championship. And the run of Daniel Garcia as the TNT champion has been underwhelming, I guess you'd say. I think this is the match where Adam Cole, baby, gets some championship singles gold in AEW. Somebody has to win. No time limit, no outside interference. Daniel Garcia versus Adam Cole. Sonny, I'm going with Adam Cole. He's had a long couple of years with the concussions and then the shattered ankle. The guy, he gets a lot of criticism for not being a super impressive physical specimen, but take a look at the guy. He is in easily the best shape he's been in since Undisputed Era in NXT. I think this is his time. He gets that TNT title. What do you think, Sonny?
Adam Cole. I think Adam Cole, I've watched him like you have, and I'm impressed by his get up and go-ness. That's what I look for in wrestlers, whether they're up and coming or whether they've been there for a minute, like Chris Jericho and Adam Cole. And I think it's going to be Adam Cole's night.
And long time coming, because, man, he dealt with that really bad concussion, which happened in a pay-per-view match. It was a 3-way for the AEW Championship, and he went down like he was shot. Hangman actually ended up signaling the doctor, and they got him out of there. And you didn't see Adam Cole again for a long time, and it was touch and go if he was going to come back. Then he comes back, top of the card with MJF, shatters his ankle, running out to interfere in a match at Grand Slam. I mean, it's just been a hard 2 years. Now I think he's finally back in a position to be what AEW was looking to get, essentially being in charge of a faction, and he's going to get some gold. And once he gets it, it's going to be hard to take it off of him. Do you see that coming, Chase, or do you think it's a surprise and Daniel Garcia, the Dragon Killer, gets it?
No, I think I agree with you, Gerald. I think Adam Cole's in the best shape he's been in that I've seen him in personally. Not that it mattered, but I think it's showing his determination as a competitor to want to be out there, want to be more involved. I mean, for crying out loud, we're a year and a half removed from, what looked like him and MJF colliding towards another AEW Championship main event. And, obviously injuries and everything that happened. But no, I think it's time. I think it's time for Adam Cole to get some singles gold. And I I love Daniel Garcia, but I agree. I haven't been as like interested in this TNT championship run with Daniel Garcia as I have, some of the past things that he's been involved with. So I think this will be a nice switch up. It'll be good for the TNT championship. I feel like that title has kind of like lost its, it doesn't feel like it's been showcased what it used to be, especially when Cody was there, Sammy Guevara had it.
Yeah.
So, there's no excuse of, like, hey, this is a second-rate title. Guys like Cody Rhodes, like Sammy Guevara, used to hold this title. This is not the same thing, and I, again, not to harp too much on the look, I feel like we are seeing the same Adam Cole that went one-on-one with Daniel Bryan on the WWE main roster, when it felt like NXT was more important than Raw and SmackDown, So super excited to see it. Love both of these guys, but I agree. I think this is Adam Cole's.
Now I think we'll have another clean sweep in this one. The Learning Tree, Big Bill, W. Morrissey, former TNA World Champion, and a veteran of the Kansas City independent wrestling scene, the bounty hunter himself, Brian Keith. They are challenging the almighty Bobby Lashley and the gold standard Shelton Benjamin for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Maybe an MJF run in here, because that's been a kind of ongoing story. We could possibly see an MJF running and a Chris Jericho running. But Sonny, I honestly think you and I have as much of a chance of beating Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin as Big Bill and Brian Keith do. Do you think different? Or are you behind this? I mean, obviously Big Bill can win at any time, and he is a former AEW Tag Team Champion. He held the belts with Ricky Starks, and it was stripped from them because of an injury to Ricky Starks. Big Bill never lost the title. Do you think he gets it back here?
I don't. I think the champs keep it, and it's going to be interesting to see what MJF does in this. And I liked his promo this past week when he came out and said who he was, and he was there to help them and all that. So I don't think a man like that's going to just walk away and leave that alone. I think he's got something going further with it.
Yeah, I agree. He could always pop up and chase. Somebody should have told MJF when he was going on this rant about ripping the Midwest that the almighty Bobby Lashley is born and raised in Junction City, Kansas.
There you go.
I don't think he knew that.
Yeah.
What do you think about this one? Besides, they're doing a good job. They were getting a little personality out of Bobby. Bobby's incredibly impressive, but doesn't do a whole lot of talking. That's usually MVP's job.
No, I mean that was always one of my big things with Bobby. Throughout his career was I felt like he needed a mouthpiece the same way Brock Lesnar had a mouthpiece. And they did a fantastic job of putting MVP with him. Their styles, they just meshed so well together. Obviously to me, I'm a humongous Brian Keith fan. Love me some bounty hunter Brian Keith.
Very entertaining.
Great inside the ring, great outside the ring. Just overall great person. So it's really hard for me to pick against the bounty hunter Brian Keith. But I'm going to have to on this one. It's the Hurt Syndicate completely.
Well, and hey, just to stick on that, it's great when you see somebody that, just about 2 years ago, he was main eventing a Central States wrestling matchup, and then had a couple of matches on AEW, a couple of enhancement talent matches. Something clicked, and Chris Jericho said, hey, I like this guy. And now he's been a regular on AEW for over a year and a half. So,
one of my favorite parts of
Brian Keith.
One of my favorite parts of this business, Gerald, at the level we're at, one of my favorite parts is to watch guys go on TV and stay on TV. You ask Moonshine Mantel who one of the one of the best guys he knows is, he's going to mention Brian Keith. You ask a lot of talent who have been through Texas and shared locker rooms with Brian Keith, who one of the best guys in the business is, they're going to tell you the bounty hunter Brian Keith. Funny story about that. I'll say this really quick. We'll move on. That match you mentioned, Gerald, in CSW, the I-70 Hot Tag sponsor that match. You know, got to say hi and shake hands with Brian Keith, you know, for that match because we sponsored it.
Yeah.
I met up with Brian Keith in LA at a GCW event. He saw me and recognized me. He was like, you look familiar. He recognized me from, and then he was like, you know, when I mentioned Kansas City and Central States, it clicked. And so he's never forgot since then, since we like met up in LA. So now when I see him in GCW in St. Louis, you know, he says, "What's up?" Just a genuine dude. So like I said, when you see guys like that, you know, come through Central States and, you know, on the independent scene, and you watch them go to TV and stay on TV, it's awesome. It lets you know that, like, hey, sometimes this business works out for people, and the people who deserve it, you know, sometimes good guys win.
Yeah. And like we've talked about before, in this age where everything's available on TV, you are literally just one match, one encounter away from getting your chance, and you get the chance to shine. You know, you only get one shot. Don't miss your chance, right? Opportunity comes once in a lifetime. But there we go. Hey, the AEW World Trios Championship is, and we don't even have Chris from Hot 103 Jams on today.
That was the highlight of my night, Gerald. Was you getting ready to sing Eminem? I was waiting for Mom Spaghetti.
World. Well, we did Dochi on the Spotlight on KC Sports last week too. Anxiety in 3, 2, 1, and it was an anxious week for Sporting Kansas City. So a badly chosen song to go into halftime as they were getting thumped by LAFC. You can tune into Spotlight on KC Sports on Sports TV Plus, and I'm talking with the host from the Pitch Pod about the coaching change in Sporting Kansas City. A 45-minute deep dive into it if you're interested in it. Well, let's get back to wrestling now. AEW World's Trio Championship. The Death Riders, Pac, Wheeler Yuta, and Claudio going up against Rated FTR. FTR and the Rated R superstar, Adam Copeland. I want it to be Rated FTR. I think it's time for the Death Riders to be done and move on. AEW programming's been on a steady climb, but the Death Rider story is just a thing that just hasn't really clicked. What do you think, Chase? Are you ready for the Death Riders to be over?
Yeah, I was waiting for like this big. Don't get me wrong. Like I feel like this is something we as fans do to ourselves, right? We had heard those stupid rumors of Shane McMahon and, you know, the kind of weird stuff that Jon Moxley was saying when the Death Riders first started, that wrestling fans were like, oh my God, you know, is there somebody like that's pulling the strings, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And like I said, we do this to ourselves. And so we expected more out of this Death Riders thing. And what we got was great. It was a group of a bunch of badass people going around and kicking people's heads in and just beating people up, you know, a no rules anarchy thing, which would, like I said, it was great. It was cool, but we ruined it for ourselves to begin with. So, you know, it has kind of, you know, plateaued and I think that they're I think we need to mix it up.
And Sonny, we'll get to the leader of the Death Riders in a bit, but I'm just thinking people don't want to see heel Claudio. They want to cheer Claudio. They want to see the big swing. I mean, people love him. Wheeler Yuta is a super nice guy. He just seems out of place being this diabolical attacking heel. I mean, Wheeler's a master's degree graphic designer. just the character just doesn't line up with the person. Now, Pac, yeah, okay, he's nuts. That makes sense. But do you think that this is just okay? Hey, we're trying to do a little reset, but let's go back to the Claudio that people know and love.
I do. I think we're tired of the same thing, and I'm with you on your opinion about this. So I think we're all in agreement. It's time for a change.
And they're all great competitors. This should be a terrific match. But yeah, I don't know. And I agree with you, Chase. I mean, there was a lot of talk that it was going to be this big invasion angle, and man, it's going to be a full reset, NWO style, and that just hasn't come about. I mean, like you said, it's a good faction, and
yeah,
for what it is, they've been great.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
the only complaint.
Yeah,
the only complaint I have is Yuta has acted like he was the bad kid the bad guy kid of the group who wanted to turn good guy. He did that with the Blackpool Combat Club, and now he's doing it with this. And it's like, dude, kid, are we gonna turn the kid or are we not? That's my only complaint about the group. I mean, like I said, what can you hate about the group? They're a bunch of anarchy, guys that are just going around beating people up. But because of how we looked into it, we're let down. So
now the women's championship is coming up. Megan Bayne, talking about GCW, there's been a lot of GCW presence. The goddess Megan Bayne going up against Timeless Toni Storm. Does Megan Bayne win this fast, or does Toni Storm get to carry the title until the end of the Owen Hart Championship? What do you think, Chase?
I think Timeless Toni Storm wins, but I'll tell you what, I think that the right person saw Megan Bayne the same way that we have seen Megan Bayne on the independent scene. The right person at AEW saw her, and they thought, I don't want to say this and like people compare it, but I think they saw her and they saw money the same way they saw Jade Cargill. She just has a very big commanding presence.
Very similar. Yeah.
She is presented like a goddess, like a champion, the same way that Jade Cargill was presented like that. And I think if the right things are done with Megan Bayne, I think you could have something similar to what AEW had with Jade Cargill, where she is just a big presence and a very special, occasion. And I mean, there was a lot of people that there was two women on the independent scene that a lot of people looked at and said, if they get signed, it's off to the races. And that was Maggie Lee and Megan Bayne. And for them to take Megan Bayne and to push her immediately and put her in somebody like Toni Storm, man, that's fireworks, man.
Well, and Megan Bayne has, and Sonny, to go back in time, Megan Bayne kind of has that same gravitas, just superstar impression that a young Hulk Hogan had in AWA when he came out. And it was just, think about it. Go back to that time when you had Nick Bockwinkel and Greg Gagne and Jumpin' Jim Brunzell, and then Hulk Hogan walked out into AWA and just turned it around and was this amazing star. And it was the mismanagement of Vern Gagne that let him get away to WWF at the time. And that's what brought about Hulkamania. And that's what allowed WrestleMania to become bigger, better, badder. Book available right now anywhere you get books from Keith Elliott Greenberg. And you can see that interview here as well. But it was just that, oh my God, wow. And Megan Bayne kind of has that same impression when you see her come out.
Yeah, I mean, she's got superstar written all over. almost to the point of where I think Jade Cargill's a once in a generation, has a once in a generation look to her, like star power to her. But Megan's almost there is what I mean.
Absolutely, especially with the Wonder Woman motif she has going. Sonny, what do you think? Megan Bayne or Timeless Toni Storm?
I think it's going to be a good bout. I'd like to see a rival between Megan Bayne and Timeless Toni Storm rather than a push for just a match to become a match. But Megan Bayne has it. She's got the look. She reminds me of Chyna when she first started. She's big. She's backing up what she says. And again, those are earmarks that I look for in wrestlers and competitors alike. And it's hard to pick her. It's hard to pick her over Timeless Toni Storm, but I think it's too soon for a heavyweight title change, and I think Toni Storm retains it. And he's just
I'll go with Toni Storm too, but I think Megan Bayne is winning the title real soon, maybe at All In. Coming up in July. It's going to be soon. She will be a future world champion because that's a good call too. Yeah, Chyna like, because there's not many people that look like Megan Bayne and can work a match too. It's very impressive.
And she just
talking about working a match. Yeah, like
ring general Luther in WWE, when she's in the ring, she's just dominant that way. And those are the earmarks of a future champion.
Absolutely, 100%. Good call. The international championship match, we talked about the TNT title kind of losing value a little bit. Well, when Kenny Omega is a champion in your company, that belt gets elevated. And he's going to be in a three-way match, triple threat against Speedball Mike Bailey and Ricochet. Ricochet, I said people want to love Claudio and Moxley. Well, people are okay hating Ricochet. That's worked. He's got that over after being a face of pretty much his all time in WWE. People do absolutely hate Ricochet. Kenny Omega, Speedball, and Ricochet. This should be an amazing matchup. Sonny, what do you think? Does Kenny Omega drop the title almost immediately after getting it?
No, I think Kenny Omega retains the title in the three-way.
Should be a crazy match, though. What do you think, Chase?
This is this is my not dark horse, but this is going to be my favorite match on the card. Gary J through Grandel Wrestling, which partners with St. Louis Anarchy, PWE, Pro Wrestling Epic in the St. Louis, Illinois area, and Glory Pro. Grandel actually put on a match last year of Gary J versus Speedball Mike Bailey, where Gary J beat Speedball Mike Bailey in a fantastic contest. And I mentioned that because everybody talks about how giving Speedball Mike Bailey is to the business. So this is again one of those moments where you get to see somebody who you've watched on the independent scene, who has done so much for the business across the nation on the independent scene, and then go to the main stage and get an opportunity to wrestle arguably two of the best wrestlers in the world. In a guy like Kenny Omega, who's arguably the best in the world, and a guy like Ricochet, who, little known fact, played Prince Puma in Lucha Underground, and everybody loved Prince Puma. And to talk about Ricochet, yes, he's a little arrogant, he's a little pompous, and he's got a very attractive wife. And so everybody wants to hate on him, and instead of trying to, sway away from that or ignore that and, try and push, hey, we follow through, the show goes on. No, they stopped and they said, hey, let's lean into this. And Ricochet has done a really, really good job of leaning into it. Again, this is going to be my favorite match on the card. There's no way that you or anybody in the world could sit me down and convince me that this match is going to suck. Because it's not. It's going to be awesome, and I'm going to love it. And Kenny Omega is going to win. Because he just won the international championship, and I think he's gonna hold that for a while. So Kenny Omega is gonna win, but this match is gonna be really, really good.
Oh yeah. I don't see him losing it, but yeah, these are three incredible talents. Speedball did some great work in TNA Impact Wrestling, and he's very deeply involved in wrestling because one of the biggest commentators in the independent circle, Verta Scott, is in fact Ms. Speedball Mike Bailey. So
that is correct.
Big wrestling family there.
Yes.
Mentioned Lucha Underground, another guy who was part of Lucha Underground. He was Killshot, Swerve, Shane, Strickland. It's Swerve time. Dynasty is where he won his AEW World title, defeating Samoa Joe back at the Chaffetz Arena in St. Louis a year ago. Gets a chance to get the title back at Dynasty this year against Jon Moxley. Fresh motivation after Moxley lays out Willow Nightingale following Swerve and Willow winning the Tornado mixed tag team matchup against Moxley and Marina Shafir. I think Swerve gets the win with a little bit of help from a injured Willow Nightingale. I think Swerve's got some backup with the Death Riders come out and try to interfere. And I see Swerve winning and Prince Nana being able to dance around and sell some Prince Nana coffee, and everybody's happy because AEW's house, Swerve's house. Sonny, what do you think? Swerve and Willow and Prince Nana, are they going to be having some shrimp cocktails and singing "We're in the Money" after this match?
Whose house is it? Swerve's house.
Yeah.
And that's what I think it's going to be. So everything's pointing in Swerve's direction.
Let the fans go home happy. Chase, do you think we see a Swerve win and a little bit of a reset for Jon Moxley?
I do. But based off of last night's of Dynamite, I think that Willow Nightingale is not going to be enough help for Swerve. I think that the equalizer is Hangman Adam Page. After their interaction last night, where Swerve looked at Hangman and said, "You burned my house down," and Hangman said, "You deserved it," and then Swerve goes, "I know." And there was this awkward moment, and I think that's what happens. I think it's time for Jon Moxley to drop that title, and I think that just like you said, I think Prince Nana and Willow Nightingale are going to try and help even the score with the Death Riders. But it's just not going to be enough. And then Hangman comes to make the save, and we get a very weird ending to Dynasty.
Full circle moment, yeah,
absolutely.
Well, with that, I know we're a little bit off the usual format, but let's go ahead and do our champion of the week as we're wrapping it up here on Wrestling Spotlight.
Hey guys, it's your girl Ash by Elegance, and you're watching me on Wrestling Spotlight.
There we go. Ash by Elegance introducing weekly champions. Sonny, who's your champion of the week this week?
My champion of the week this week is an old school wrestler, and I'll tell you why I picked him. Actually got a little action figure of him. I paid $6.99 for this back in 1992.
Hey.
Worth about $286 today. Bret the Hitman Hart. And I give it to Bret the Hitman Hart because he's going into the WWE for a third time during WrestleMania weekend. And so far he is the only wrestler to have done so. Bret the Hitman Hart, my champion of the week.
Yeah, WWE Hall of Fame taking place after SmackDown this year at a different venue. It's going to be at the Fontainebleau Casino at 10 o'clock Pacific time. So midnight Central, 1 a.m. Eastern. Probably not going to get a ton of views, but it will be available on demand on Peacock and on YouTube. The Hall of Fame is fun. I went to it last year, but man, it's a late night. Chase, you're champion of the week.
I guess not. I guess I think I'm going to go with Cody Rhodes. I think there's a lot of talk of Cody Rhodes kind of being not an afterthought, but people are starting to second guess Cody Rhodes. Like, we've already assumed that John's going to win the 17th championship. And I thought he did really well in his promo against Cena.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was expecting Cena to, just mow down Cody with his heel persona. And I think Cody's holding his own. And I think, Cody's kind of like, hey, like, we're not going to assume you're going to win 17 anything, bud. Like, we're going to have us a WrestleMania caliber match. And we've still got a few weeks left until the big show. So I'm excited to see where it goes. And I thought it was, like I said, there's times where people just get kind of bored of Cody, and then Cody will pull these promos out of nowhere, and you'll be like, okay, there's the Cody Rhodes that I know can be a main event guy. There's a few that come to mind. There's the one with Roman from WrestleMania 39. There's one against MJF in AEW, and one against his brother in AEW. And I feel like this one was right up there with all those.
Oh, he had a great line.
Almost tell great stories. Promos sell tickets. Yeah. Promos are a part of the business.
Absolutely. A huge part. He had a great line where he said, "The fans, the universe made me an old man we don't talk about anymore. It chose you."
Yeah.
I thought that was really good. Really good.
It was great.
That was actually the week, John Cena and Cody Rhodes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A little dig at Vince in there, too. And then I'm going to go with staying close to home. Central States Wrestling alum, the bounty hunter Brian Keats, getting his pay-per-view match. Him and Big Bill. I mean, it's been a long journey for Big Bill, and man, he's been doing a great job. He really kind of reinvented himself as W. Morrissey in Impact and TNA, and he really stands out in AEW because he is too much man. He is a huge individual, and he could be a world championship contender at any point too. So I don't think they're winning, but the bounty hunter Brian Keith for getting the pay-per-view showcase, I'm giving you the Wrestling Spotlight Championship of the week. Well, with that, we'll wrap it up. We're going to have some more special interviews, some features as we come up on WrestleMania week here. Sonny, if people want to get in touch with you, how can they reach you here during the week and just get some wrestling insight following you on the socials?
They can reach me at Sonny Cain, at Real Sonny Cain on X, formerly known as Twitter. They can reach me on Facebook at Sonny Cain, the Man Eagle. Either way, I'll interact with whoever reaches out to me.
Excellent. And Chase, people want to get some more information on Fountain City Pro. Where's the best place to go?
Fountain City Pro KC is usually where you find us. X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. The shows, our past shows you can find on YouTube. So yeah, Fountain City Pro KC.
Excellent. You can get some great Fountain City Pro merchandise too.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
T-shirt fountains. It's really neat. And with that, we'll wrap it up here for the week. Stay tuned to Wrestling Spotlight for more. We got some great wrestling, including from Fountain City Pro, Glory Pro, Wrestle Arts from Indianapolis, Pro South from Alabama, and more. We're featuring POW Wrestling now, coming out of Ohio. Joe Dombrowski, the voice of MLW, was the coordinating producer and was the announcer on it. Got some matches coming up featuring a young Johnny Gargano. So lots of great programming coming. Download that True TV Plus app so you can take it with you anywhere you go. Thanks a lot and have a championship week. We'll see you back here next week in Wrestling Spotlight.